Imagine you are drifting down the Amazon River. It is twilight. The air is thick, humid, and silent. You look over the edge of your small boat, scanning the black water. You see a ripple. Then a shape. It's not a caiman. It's not an anaconda. It is a coil of muscle as thick as a truck tire, sliding endlessly beneath you. 40 feet of scales. 2,500 pounds of crushing power. This is not a monster movie. This is, or was, reality. 60 million years ago, immediately after the dinosaurs vanished, the Earth didn't belong to mammals. It belonged to Titanoboa. But let's play a dangerous game. Let's reach back into deep time, grab this apex predator, and drop it right here, right now, into the modern Amazon rainforest. Could it survive? Could it hunt? Or would the world we live in today kill the king of snakes before it even took its first breath? To understand if this nightmare could exist today, you have to understand what it was. When miners in Colombia first unearthed its vertebrae, they thought they were looking at crocodile bones. They were just too big to be a snake. But when the dust settled, the math was undeniable. This thing was longer than a school bus and weighed as much as a giraffe. It was the largest predator on land for 10 million years. But here is where the fantasy crashes into the laws of physics. Because being big comes with a price. You see, Titanoboa was cold-blooded. It didn't generate its own heat, it stole it from the world around it. It was a living solar panel. And 60 million years ago, the world was a very different place. The Paleocene epoch was a greenhouse world. Carbon dioxide levels were sky-high. The average temperature in the tropics was significantly hotter than it is today, possibly averaging around 30 to 34 degrees Celsius, day and night. That heat was the engine that allowed Titanoboa to get so massive. It needed that furnace to keep its metabolism running. Without it, a snake that size is just a mountain of cold meat. Now, look at the modern Amazon. It is hot, sure. But it's not Paleocene hot. The average temperature is cooler, hovering around 26 to 28 degrees. That might not sound like a huge drop to you, but to a 2,000-pound reptile, that difference is a death sentence. If we dropped Titanoboa into the Amazon today, the first thing it would feel is a chill. It would be perpetually sluggish. Its digestion would slow to a crawl. A meal that used to take a week to digest might now sit in its gut for months, rotting before the snake could absorb the energy. It would be a king in a coma, too cold to hunt, too slow to strike. But let's assume, just for a moment, that global warming is doing its job. Let's say the temperatures rise just enough to wake the giant up. It starts to move. It's hungry. And this brings us to the next terrified realization. What does a 1-ton snake eat? In the Paleocene, Titanoboa shared the swamps with giant turtles and massive crocodilians, prey items the size of small cars. It was an ecosystem of giants. The snake could lie in wait, strike once, and consume a 1,000-pound meal that would fuel it for months. Look at the modern Amazon. The giants are gone. The biggest thing you'll find is a tapir or a jaguar. A tapir weighs maybe 600 pounds. A jaguar, maybe 200. To Titanoboa, a jaguar isn't a meal, it's a snack. It's a popcorn shrimp. To survive today, Titanoboa would have to hunt constantly. It couldn't just lie in wait for a week. It would need to be active, burning precious energy to catch prey that is barely worth the effort. It's the laws of thermodynamics. You cannot run a tank on a lawnmower's fuel tank. And the competition? That's even worse. The modern Amazon is ruled by the green anaconda. Now, the anaconda is much smaller, topping out around 500 pounds. But it is perfectly evolved for this world. It is faster, more agile, and needs less food. If Titanoboa entered this river, it wouldn't just be fighting the cold, it would be fighting for scraps. It would be an outdated piece of machinery in a sleek, modern factory. But here is the twist. This is where the story gets darker. Because we aren't just talking about the wild. We are talking about the modern world. And the modern world has something the Paleocene didn't. Us. Titanoboa was an ambush predator. It needed dense, flooded forests to hide its massive bulk. It needed deep, dark water to support its weight so gravity didn't crush its internal organs. Today's Amazon is burning. The forests are being cleared for cattle ranches. The rivers are being dammed and dredged.
A relic of a warmer age finds little comfort in this disturbed landscape.
The habitat that Titanoboa needs, vast, uninterrupted, flooded jungle, is fracturing. Imagine a 40-foot snake trying to cross a soybean field. Imagine it trying to hide in a patch of forest that is shrinking every day. It would be spotted instantly. And unlike the prehistoric turtles it used to hunt, humans don't fight with shells. We fight with machinery. We fight with fear.
Get back, everyone, get back!
A snake that size would be a target immediately. It wouldn't be a predator, it would be a trophy, or a threat to be eliminated. The moment it surfaced near a village or a logging camp, its fate would be sealed. It survived the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, but it wouldn't survive us. However, there is a specific scenario where this monster could survive. A scenario that is actually happening right now, in the shadows of our own civilization. We need to talk about the invasive species paradox. Usually, when you introduce a new predator, it struggles. But sometimes, it thrives. Look at the Burmese pythons in the Florida Everglades. They are tropical snakes thriving in a subtropical environment, decimating the local wildlife. Could Titanoboa do the same? If we look at the Florida Everglades, we see a habitat that is artificially warm, filled with invasive prey, and crisscrossed with canals that offer deep water cover. It is almost a perfect replica of the Paleocene swamp. If, and this is a massive if, Titanoboa could survive the initial temperature shock, the Everglades might actually be the one place on Earth it could call home. And that is a terrifying thought. Because in the Everglades, there are no jaguars to eat. There are alligators. Titanoboa ate crocodilians for breakfast. Literally. So, picture this, a Titanoboa released into the Florida swamps. It finds the water warm enough. It finds the alligators plentiful. It begins to grow. It begins to breed. Suddenly, the apex predator of the southern United States isn't an alligator, and it isn't a human with an airboat. It is a ghost from the past. But before you start canceling your vacation to Miami, we have to look at the biology of breathing. This is the unseen killer. You see, being a giant isn't just about fitting into a room. It's about keeping the machine running. Snakes have a very specific, very ancient design. They don't have a diaphragm like us. To take a breath, a snake has to actively use its muscles to expand its ribs, creating a vacuum to pull air into a lung that, in Titanoboa's case, would have been 15 feet long. Here is the problem. In the modern world, without that intense Paleocene heat to supercharge its muscles, Titanoboa faces a horrific physical reality. Every breath is a weightlifting workout. In our cooler climate, the snake is lethargic. Its muscles are weak. But gravity never sleeps. Gravity is pulling down on those massive ribs, on that heavy flesh, with the same force it exerts on a truck. A Titanoboa in the modern world would likely suffer from compression asphyxiation. It would be literally too heavy to breathe. It would gasp, trying to heave its own massive body wall outward to get air, but the cold muscles just wouldn't fire hard enough. It would drown in the air, crushed by its own magnificence. And that brings us to the land problem. Titanoboa was aquatic. It had to be. Water provides buoyancy, canceling out the crushing grip of gravity. But reptiles have to come up for air, and they often have to bask on land to warm up, to digest, to lay eggs. In the Paleocene, the ground was softer, the swamps were endless. But today, if Titanoboa hauled its 2,000-pound body onto a riverbank in the Amazon, it would be vulnerable in a way it never was before. It would be a beached submarine. It couldn't strike. It couldn't flee. It would just lie there, a mountain of meat, waiting for the sun to give it permission to move. And in the modern Amazon, or the Everglades, waiting is dying. But here is where this thought experiment stops being about a snake and starts being about us. We asked if Titanoboa could survive in our world. The answer is a probable no. It is too cold, the food is too small, and the competition is too fast. The world has moved on. But what if we flip the question? What if the world moved back? We are currently pumping carbon into the atmosphere at a rate that mimics the conditions of the Paleocene. We are heating the planet. We are expanding the tropics. We are creating the exact conditions that allowed Titanoboa to evolve in the first place. Scientists call this the Titanoboa prophecy. The existence of this snake proves that Earth is capable of getting much, much hotter than it is right now. It proves that the poles can melt completely. It proves that the rainforest can turn into a suffocating, sweltering sauna where cold-blooded monsters grow to the size of buses. If we continue on our current path, we might not be bringing Titanoboa back, but we are building the house it used to live in. We are terraforming our own planet into a paradise for reptiles and a hellscape for mammals. Remember, mammals, like us, survive because we can regulate our own heat. But at a certain temperature, that system breaks. If the wet bulb temperature gets too high, we simply die. We cook from the inside out. Titanoboa loved that heat. It thrived in the temperatures that would kill a human in hours. So, could Titanoboa survive today? No. The king of snakes is dead, buried under 60 million years of rock and soil in a Colombian coal mine. And honestly, we should be grateful. Because if we ever look out at the Amazon River and see a 40-foot shadow moving under the water, if we ever see the return of the Titanoboa, it won't mean that nature has healed. It won't mean life has found a way. It will mean that we have broken the world. It will mean that the age of mammals is ending, and the time of the monsters has come again. Some ghosts are best left in the dark. But humans are terrible at leaving ghosts alone. We are a species obsessed with the impossible. We look at the woolly mammoth and say, let's bring it back. We look at the dodo and say, we can fix this. So, naturally, you have to ask the final, most dangerous question: could we make Titanoboa survive? Not by finding a fossil, but by building one. This is where the science of de-extinction hits a wall, but opens a door. We cannot clone Titanoboa. DNA has a shelf life. After about 1 million years, it is gone, shattered into useless chemical dust. Titanoboa has been dead for 60 million years. Its genetic blueprint is lost to time. But we have the blueprint of its cousins. We have the green anaconda. We have the reticulated python. If a geneticist wanted to play Frankenstein, they wouldn't clone Titanoboa. They would reverse engineer it. They could theoretically use CRISPR, genetic editing technology, to unlock the dormant growth genes in a modern python. We know the biological potential is there. The code for giant is still hidden somewhere in the snake's evolutionary library. If we tweak those genes, if we suppress the growth inhibitors, we could, in theory, create a snake that doesn't stop growing. A designer monster. But here is the catch. Here is why this experiment would be even crueler than dropping a fossil into the Amazon. To keep this synthetic Titanoboa alive, we would have to build a life support system. We would need a custom-built enclosure heated to exactly 32 degrees Celsius. We would need a pressurized atmosphere to help it breathe. We would need to feed it cattle by the truckload. It wouldn't be a wild animal. It would be a biological prisoner. It would be a living testament to our own ego. A creature bred for a world that no longer exists, kept alive by machines because we just wanted to see if we could do it. And maybe that is the ultimate answer to our question. Could Titanoboa survive in modern tropical ecosystems? No. Nature has evicted it. The lease is up. But could it survive in the world of humans? Yes. Because we love monsters. We fear them, yet we are desperate to be near them. We want to see the giant snake, the T-Rex, the dragon. We want to feel small again. We want to be reminded that we are meat. Titanoboa reminds us that the earth was not made for us. We are just the current tenants. And if we crank up the heat enough, the landlord might decide to move back in. It is a terrifying thought. But it's also a beautiful one. It means the earth is wilder, older, and stronger than we can ever comprehend. So the next time you feel the humid heat of a summer storm, or see a shadow ripple in the water, remember the king. Remember that giants used to walk and slither here. And remember that extinction isn't always forever. Sometimes, it's just a nap. If you want to understand the terrifying physics of other giants, and why Godzilla would actually explode if he existed, you need to click this video right here. It turns out, size really does matter, and the math is brutal. Click here, and I'll see you in the next one.